Kate Morrison felt her heart sink when the emergency pod stopped working. The rescue signal that should have helped her friends find her went dark. Something was blocking it, and that something was much stronger than normal space pirates. When the alien ship's beam grabbed her tiny escape pod, she knew she was in serious trouble. The Zathi were famous across the galaxy for making prisoners talk. They had broken strong soldiers, smart diplomats, and clever spies from many different worlds. Kate had learned about them in training. She knew what they could do to people. Her pod shook as the big alien ship pulled it inside. Through the small window, Kate saw strange hallways with glowing walls. Everything looked sharp and wrong, like it was built to make visitors feel scared. When the pod finally stopped moving, Kate checked her flight suit one last time. Her name tag said Morrison with her rank and number. It might be the last thing from Earth she would see for a long time. The door opened with a loud hiss. 6 Zathi soldiers stood outside waiting for her. They looked like giant insects standing on 4 legs with 2 more arms reaching out. Their big eyes showed nothing that Kate could understand. One of them spoke in broken standard language. "Human, you will come with us. If you fight, we will hurt you." Kate lifted her hand slowly and stepped out. She was a trained officer. She knew the rules for staying alive. Work with them when you must, fight back when you can, and never tell them anything important. They walked through twisting hallways that seemed designed to confuse her. The Zathi moved easily on their many legs while Kate struggled to keep up. Finally, they reached a prison area and pushed her into a cell. The cell was bigger than she expected, about 20 feet wide. The walls were smooth and seemed alive, glowing softly with inner light. There was a raised platform for sleeping and a corner area for waste. No windows. No cameras that she could see, but she knew they were watching. Kate sat on the platform and waited. In training, they taught her that waiting was part of breaking prisoners down. Let them imagine terrible things before anything even happens. Hours went by. Maybe days. The light never changed, so Kate could not tell time. She did exercises to keep her mind sharp. She went over everything she knew about her mission, trying to protect the information in her head. She tried not to think about what the Zathi might do to her. When they came for her, it happened without warning. The wall opened and 4 guards told her to follow. They took her to a bigger room, darker and scarier. The air smelled bad, like something burning and wrong. A large Zathi stood in the middle of the room. It had special marks that showed it was important. When it spoke, its voice was clearer than the guards. "I am Interrogator Vexus. You are Lieutenant Commander Kate Morrison from the Earth Navy ship Defiant. Your ship fought our patrol 3 days ago. We want information about your fleet, your ship, and your mission." Kate kept her face calm. "Kate Morrison, Lieutenant Commander, serial number 77429 Alpha. That is all I must tell you under the Galactic Convention." "The Convention does not protect you here," Vexus said, cutting her off. "Your species is too new. You have not earned those protections. You will tell us what we want, or we will make you tell us." Kate said nothing. She expected this. Vexus walked around her slowly, its many eyes reflecting the dim light. "We have studied humans since you entered our space. You are interesting creatures. Aggressive and smart, but you have weaknesses. You care too much about other living things. You feel sorry for creatures you think are helpless. This will destroy you." The interrogator waved at the guards. They brought forward a large container made of clear material. Kate could see something moving inside. "Your file says you care about young animals," Vexus continued. "We have prepared something that will help you understand what happens if you do not cooperate." They opened the container and Kate's breath caught in her throat. Inside were 3 creatures she had never seen before. They walked on 4 legs and were about the size of large dogs. Their fur was pure black and seemed to eat the light around them. Their faces looked built for killing, with sharp teeth showing even when their mouths were closed. Each one had 6 eyes placed around its head so it could see in all directions. Their paws had claws that left deep marks on the floor, but Kate could tell they were young. They moved like puppies, clumsy and excited. Their bodies looked like they had a lot of growing left to do. One of them made a chirping sound that might have been playful. "These are Vexhounds," Vexus explained, sounding proud. "They come from our home world. They are perfect hunters from birth. Even as babies, they can kill animals twice their size. Their need to hunt is so strong that our people could never tame them. We can only cage them." Vexus moved closer to Kate, studying her face. "We will put you in a room with these cubs. They have not eaten for days. If you give us the information we want, We will take you out before they attack. If you refuse, you will watch them starve. You will watch them get desperate. You will watch them decide you are food. Just waiting will break you." Kate felt her heart pounding hard, but she kept her voice steady. "If you think torture will work on me, you do not understand humans very well." "Oh, but we do," Vexus replied. "We will not hurt you ourselves. That would be too simple. No, we just want you to watch nature happen. Young predators must eat. You will watch them starve. You will watch them look at you like prey. The fear alone will make you talk." The guards grabbed Kate's arms and dragged her toward a different room. This one was round, about 30 feet across, with smooth walls that curved up into a dome. The floor was covered in sand that moved under her boots. There were cuts in the walls, probably to stop anyone from climbing out. They pushed her into the center and quickly left, sealing the door behind them. Kate spun around, looking at her situation. No weapons. No place to hide. The walls were too smooth to climb, and even if she could reach the top, there was no way out. Through a clear part of the wall, she could see Vexus and other Zathi watching. The interrogator's voice came through hidden speakers. "The cubs will be released in 1 minute. I suggest you think carefully, Lieutenant Commander. Give us the information or die slowly. Choose wisely." Kate moved to the edge of the room, putting her back against the wall. It was a defensive position that would limit where the creatures could attack from. Her mind raced. Could she fight them? Probably not. 3 against 1, and they were natural hunters even as babies. Could she scare them? Maybe, but for how long? The minute passed so slowly. Then part of the wall opened, and the 3 Vexhound cubs tumbled into the room. For a moment, they looked confused by the new space. They spread out, sniffing the air with their noses. Their 6 eyes moved in different directions, looking at everything. Kate held completely still, barely breathing. One cub saw her first. Its eyes locked onto her, and it made a low rumbling sound that scared her badly. The other 2 turned immediately, all watching her with hunting focus. They started walking toward her, moving with a smooth grace that seemed wrong for young animals. Kate could see their muscles getting ready under their dark fur, preparing to jump. The lead cub was less than 10 feet away now, pulling its lips back to show rows of sharp teeth. This is it, Kate thought. This is how I die. But then something strange happened. The lead cub stopped. Its ears twitched forward. The rumbling sound changed, became less dangerous. The cub tilted its head to one side, looking at her with what seemed almost like curiosity. Kate stayed frozen, not moving at all. The cub took another step forward, then another. It was close enough now that she could touch it. Its breath was hot against her leg, and she could smell something wild and strong. Then incredibly, the cub sat down. It looked up at Kate with all 6 eyes and made a sound between a chirp and a whine. The other 2 cubs came closer but seemed more curious than hungry now. One walked around Kate, sniffing at her boots and suit. The third sat down next to the first, copying what it did. Through the window, Kate could see Vexus moving quickly, clearly upset. The Zathi seemed confused by what they were seeing. Kate, still not quite believing it, slowly lowered herself to sit against the wall. The cubs watched her move with interest but did not attack. The lead cub scooted closer. Kate held her breath as it approached, expecting it to suddenly attack. But instead, the cub just pressed its body against her side and made a happy rumbling sound. Then it closed its eyes and seemed to fall asleep. Kate sat there shocked as the other 2 cubs did the same thing. Within minutes, all 3 of the supposedly vicious predators were curled up beside her, breathing slowly, sometimes making small, happy sounds. "This is not possible." Vexus's voice came through the speakers, no longer confident. "These are hunters. Killers from birth. They should be tearing you apart." Kate, finding her voice, spoke softly so she would not wake the cubs. "Maybe you do not know as much about predators as you think you do." Part 2, the Zathi scientists rushed into the observation room. Kate could see them through the clear wall, their insect bodies clustering around screens and machines. Their mouths clicked rapidly, and what she had learned meant they were upset or confused. Interrogator Vexus stood in the center of all the chaos, its body stiff with what Kate thought was embarrassment and confusion. She stayed still against the wall with the 3 Vexhound cubs pressed against her in a pile of warm, breathing bodies. The lead cub had its head resting on her leg. Every few minutes, one of them would move, stretch, or make a small happy sound before settling back down to sleep. Kate found herself gently petting the fur of the nearest cub. It was softer than it looked, with a silky feel despite the creature clearly being a predator. The cub responded by pressing closer. its purring vibrating through her body. It reminded her of the barn cats back home on her family's farm in Montana. They had been half-wild creatures able to kill rats twice their size, but they had also curled up in her lap on cold winter evenings, purring just like this. The memory made her chest feel tight. How long had she been gone from Earth? How long before she would see home again, if ever? The speakers crackled to life again. Lieutenant Commander Morrison. It was a different Zathi voice, calmer than Vex's had been. I am lead scientist Kethis. We need to understand what is happening here. This behavior is new in all our observations of Vex hounds. Will you help us with some simple tests? Kate thought about the request. That depends on what you mean by tests. Nothing that will hurt you or the cubs. We just want to watch. Can you describe what happened from your view? Kate saw no reason not to answer. They came toward me. I thought they were going to attack. But then the first one just stopped, looked at me, and sat down. The others followed. Then they decided I made a comfortable pillow, I guess. Did you make any sounds or movements? Use any technology we might not have seen? No, I was trying not to move at all. I definitely did not encourage this. She could hear fast-clicking conversation among the Zathi, too quick for her to understand. Finally, Kethis spoke again. We would like to put food in the room, to see if hunger changes their behavior. Kate tensed. You want to see if they will attack me when they remember they are hungry? Partly, but also to watch how they act with each other when there is food. Vex hounds usually fight each other over food. We are curious if you being here changes this. What kind of food? Nutrition blocks. Safe for Vex hounds, harmless for humans. Nothing that would make them want to hunt you. Kate looked down at the cubs sleeping peacefully against her. She did not want to disturb them, but she was also curious about what was happening. All right, but carefully. I do not want them startled. A small door opened in the wall across from Kate, and a tray slid through with several chunks of something that looked like dark brown protein bars. The smell that came across the room was strong and meaty. The cubs' heads popped up right away. Their noses flared and their ears turned toward the food. The lead cub let out an excited chirp and looked up at Kate, then back at the food, then at Kate again. Kate could not help but smile. Go ahead. I am not going to take your food. The three cubs ran across the room with the clumsy excitement of puppies. They reached the food and started eating right away, making happy growling sounds. But unlike what the Zathi thought would happen, they did not fight each other. The biggest cub actually pushed one of the food blocks toward the smallest one, who was having trouble reaching the tray. After they finished eating, leaving one block untouched, the cubs came back to Kate and settled against her again. The lead cub had something in its mouth. It dropped the last food block in Kate's lap, looked up at her expectantly, then curled back into position. Did that creature just share its food with you? Kethis's voice sounded shocked. Kate looked down at the block in her lap, then at the cub who was watching her with half-closed eyes. I think it did. This is impossible. Vexhounds do not share. They are solitary hunters. Even cubs from the same group will fight hard over food. Kate picked up the food block. It smelled terrible to her, but the gesture touched her heart. Maybe they are not as solitary as you thought. Or maybe they recognize something in humans that you do not. More clicking conversation among the Zathi. Kate could see Vexes making sharp gestures, clearly arguing with the scientists. Finally, the interrogator's voice came through the speakers, tight with controlled anger. This proves nothing. You will stay in the room. When the cubs get hungry again, their true nature will come out. Predators do not change because of feelings. Kate stroked the lead cub's fur, feeling it purr under her hand. You keep saying that, but maybe you are wrong about what their nature really is. The hours that followed created a routine. The cubs would wake up sometimes, stretch, play with each other in short, energetic bursts, then come back to sleep against Kate. The Zathi scientists watched all the time, recording everything. Kate could see them bringing in more equipment, taking readings through the walls, arguing among themselves. At one point, the smallest cub woke and started to whine, a sad sound that got the attention of the other two right away. They gathered around their sibling, touching noses with it, but the whining continued. The cub looked at Kate with something that seemed like asking for help. I think this one needs to use the bathroom, Kate called out. Is there somewhere they are supposed to go? A moment of silence, then Kethis responded. Vexhounds usually pick a corner of their territory. The cub should know this by instinct. Sure enough, the small cub walked to the far corner of the room, did its business, then carefully covered the spot by scratching sand over it. It came back to Kate and fell asleep right away, clearly relieved. They are cleaning up after themselves, Kate observed. These are smart animals, social. They understand territory and cleanliness. This is not random instinct. Vexhounds are intelligent predators, Kethis admitted. We knew this, but they have never shown social bonding with other species, never. Maybe no one ever gave them the chance, Kate said quietly. Nighttime came, or at least the Zathi made the lights dimmer to pretend it was night. Kate was exhausted, running on stress and fear. She carefully lay down and the cubs immediately moved around her. One draped itself across her legs. Another curled up against her stomach. The lead cub positioned itself near her head, one paw stretched out protectively. As Kate started to fall asleep, she heard Vexus and Kethis arguing in the observation room. The words were muffled, but the tone was clear. The interrogator wanted to make things worse, to force violence. The scientist wanted to keep watching, to understand this strange thing. Kate was too tired to care about their politics. For the first time since being captured, surrounded by 3 sleeping predators that should have killed her, she felt almost safe. She woke to the feeling of something rough on her face. She opened her eyes to find the lead Vexhound cub licking her cheek with a tongue that felt like warm sandpaper. When the cub saw her eyes open, it made a happy chirping sound and jumped backward, play bowing with its rear end in the air and its tail wagging. Tail wagging. Kate had not even noticed they had tails until now, long and flexible with fur at the end. The lead cub's tail was moving so fast it was almost a blur. "Good morning to you too," Kate said, her voice rough from sleep. She sat up slowly, careful of the other 2 cubs still sleeping against her legs. The movement woke them and they stretched with big yawns that showed every one of their sharp teeth. The room lights had brightened to look like daytime. Through the observation window, Kate could see that new Zathi had replaced the previous ones. She recognized lead scientist Kethis still there despite working all night. Interrogator Vexus was nowhere to be seen. The wall speaker turned on. "Good morning, Lieutenant Commander." "How did you sleep?" Kate rubbed her neck, feeling the stiffness from sleeping on the floor. "I have had better beds, but all things considered, not bad. Your friends here make decent blankets. We have been studying the recordings from the night. The cubs took turns staying awake while the others slept. This is behavior we have seen in pack animals, not solitary predators." Kate watched as the cubs started to play, chasing each other in circles around the room. They were careful, she noticed, not to run into her. Have you considered that maybe calling them solitary is wrong? Vexhounds have been studied carefully. They hunt alone in the wild. They keep territories that they defend against other Vexhounds. Parents leave their cubs within weeks of birth. Every observation says they are not social. Every observation by Zathi, Kate pointed out. Maybe they are just not social with you. The clicking sound of Zathi conversation filled the background. Finally, Kethis spoke again, and Kate heard something that might have been curiosity. "Explain your thinking." Kate gathered her thoughts, watching the cubs play. Predators are smart. They have to be. They need to read prey behavior, adapt to situations, solve problems. Maybe Vexhounds are smart enough to recognize different species and respond differently to them. Continue. You said Zathi tried to tame them and failed. Did you ever think that they chose not to be tamed? Think about it. You are insect-like. You move differently, smell different, talk differently than they do. Maybe to them, you just feel wrong. Not prey, but not pack either. Part 3. Kate held the slobbery food block the smallest cub had brought her. The little creature sat looking up at her with all 6 eyes, waiting for something. Kate tried to hand it back. "Thanks, buddy, but I cannot eat this. It is your food." She held it out, but the small cub refused to take it. It just sat there looking almost offended that she would not accept the gift. "The cub is trying to take care of you," Kethis observed from the observation room. "This is caretaking behavior. Lieutenant Commander, in all our years of study, we have never seen Vexhounds try to care for another creature. This goes against everything we know about them." Kate set the food block aside respectfully and scratched behind the small cub's ears. She found a spot that made the cub lean into her hand with pleasure. Or maybe it confirmed something you never looked for because you thought it was not there. More clicking discussion among the Zathi. Then Kethis said something that surprised her. "Interrogator Vexus has been removed from this job. The High Command is interested in your ideas. They want to do more tests with your help." Kate felt a chill of suspicion. What kind of tests? Nothing harmful. We want to introduce different things and watch how the cubs respond. Loud noises, bright lights, moving objects. Standard behavior assessment. We also want to bring in other Zathi observers to see if the cubs accept them like they accept you. And if I refuse, you are still our prisoner, Lieutenant Commander. But the nature of your captivity has changed. You are no longer someone we interrogate. You are a research participant. If you help us, your conditions will get much better. Kate looked at the 3 cubs now wrestling in a pile of fur and teeth and happy growls. She had no loyalty to her captors, but she wanted to understand these creatures better too, and helping might give her information she could use to escape. I want better food, she said, for me and for them. I want to know what they need to eat, and I want to make sure they get it. Agreed. I want access to information about Vex hounds. Everything you have. Biology, behavior, habitat, all of it. Agreed, with some limits. And I want to promise that these cubs will not be harmed. No matter what your tests show, a pause. The cubs are valuable research subjects now. They will not be harmed. Kate did not entirely trust that promise, but it was better than nothing. All right. I will help. But I am doing this for them, not for you. Your reasons do not matter as long as we get results. Over the next hours, the Zathi did their tests. They made loud noises. The cubs' ears flattened, and they ran to Kate right away, pressing against her until the sound stopped. When the noises started again, the lead cub stood between Kate and the speaker, growling. They sent in moving objects, small flying machines that zipped around the room. The cubs stalked them playfully, their hunting instincts clearly working. But whenever they caught one, they brought it back to Kate as if showing a kill to a pack leader. They made the lights very dim, almost dark. The cubs, with their many eyes built for low-light hunting, moved easily through the shadows. Kate could not see them, but she could hear them walking around the edges of the room. One stayed close to her at all times. The cubs are showing clear protective behavior, Kethis observed. They see you as part of their social group and respond to threats accordingly. They are pack animals, Kate said. You just never let them have a pack before. The most telling test came when they brought in another Zathi, a young scientist who entered the room carefully. The cubs immediately bristled, their fur standing on end. They did not attack, but they formed a wall between the Zathi and Kate, growling in a way that made their threat completely clear. The Zathi left quickly. Fascinating. They tell the difference between your species and ours, and they have chosen a side. Kate felt an unexpected surge of pride. Smart kids. Days turned into weeks in the research room. The cubs grew noticeably bigger, their movements becoming more coordinated and powerful. What had been clumsy puppy play was turning into real hunting skill. Kate watched them practice on the flying machines, their attacks becoming smarter and more efficient, but their bond with her only grew deeper. Kate started giving them names. The lead cub became Scout, for the way it always checked out new things first. The smallest was Runt, though it was catching up to its siblings in size. The third, the one with a white patch on its chest, became Patch. Kate also learned more about Vex hounds than the Zathi probably wanted her to know. The research data Kethis provided showed that in the wild, Vex hounds did sometimes form temporary pairs during mating season. There were rare observations of females with multiple cubs working together to bring down large prey. The solitary classification was more assumption than fact, based on how hard they were to observe and the fact that they avoided Zathi settlements. She also learned about her own situation. The Defiant had escaped the Zathi ambush, but the fleet did not know she had survived. She was listed as missing in action, probably dead. The Zathi had no plan to release her. She was too valuable now, the only human who could safely interact with creatures they wanted to study. Kate was still planning her escape, but it was harder now. She could not leave the cubs behind. They had become her responsibility, her pack. The irony was not lost on her that being trapped with predators had given her a reason beyond herself to fight for freedom. The chance came from an unexpected place. Late one night, the room's outer door opened suddenly. Kate jerked awake, the cubs immediately alert beside her. Through the door came not a Zathi, but a human woman in a tactical suit carrying weapons. "Lieutenant Commander Morrison?" the woman whispered urgently. "Captain Helen Grant, Marine Special Operations. We are getting you out of here." Kate was on her feet instantly, the cubs pressing against her legs. "How did you find me?" "Long story. We have maybe 3 minutes before they realize their security is broken. Can you walk? Yes, but I am not leaving without them. Kate pointed to the cubs. Grant's eyes went wide as she noticed the Vex hounds for the first time. Her weapon came up instinctively. Those are Zathi attack beasts. Step away from them, Commander. No. Kate moved between Grant and the cubs. They are coming with us. That is not negotiable. Morrison, we do not have time for this. Then we better move fast. They will follow me. They will not hurt you unless you threaten me. Grant hesitated, clearly thinking about options. Then an explosion shook the ship somewhere in the distance. Fine, but if they turn on us, I am putting them down. They will not. Kate ran for the door and the cubs bounded after her. They moved through hallways Kate had never seen, following Grant's lead. Twice they ran into Zathi guards. Twice the cubs attacked before Grant could even raise her weapon, moving with terrifying speed. They did not kill, but they disabled, leaving the guards unconscious and bleeding. Holy hell, Grant breathed. How did you tame them? I did not. We just understood each other. They reached an emergency exit where 2 more Marines waited with a stolen Zathi shuttle. The team piled in, the cubs hesitating only for a moment before following Kate inside. As the shuttle blasted away from the Zathi warship, Kate looked back at the cubs. They were pressed together, eyes wide, clearly frightened by the strange movements and sounds. She knelt and gathered them close, feeling them relax against her. You did good, she whispered. You are safe now, Scout licked her face. Runt made a questioning chirp. Patch curled up in her lap despite being far too large for it. Grant watched from the pilot's seat, shaking her head in amazement. Command is never going to believe this, Kate smiled. They do not have to believe it. They just have to trust me. The shuttle carried them through space toward the human fleet. Kate sat with the cubs pressed against her, feeling their warmth and their trust. They had been meant to break her, to use her fear against her. Instead, they had shown her something important about connection across impossible differences. Scout lifted his head and looked at her with all 6 eyes. Kate scratched behind his ears, and he made that rumbling purr that she had come to love. Runt and Patch were already asleep, exhausted from the escape. We are going home, Kate told Scout quietly. All of us together. The cub seemed to understand. He settled his head back on her leg and closed his eyes, trusting her completely. Behind them, the Zathi warship grew smaller in the shuttle's rear window. Somewhere on that ship, Interrogator Vexus was probably furious, unable to understand how the plan had failed so completely. They had tried to use predators as weapons of psychological warfare, but predators, Kate had learned, were not weapons. They were people in their own way. They could choose trust over fear, companionship over isolation, protection over violence. The Zathi had seen monsters where there were only scared, hungry cubs looking for someone to understand them. And Kate, a prisoner with nothing to lose, had been willing to see them as they really were. That simple act of recognition had changed everything. Grant called back from the pilot's seat. ETA to the fleet is 2 hours. You might want to think about how you are going to explain all this. Kate looked down at the 3 sleeping cubs. Scout's paw was resting on her arm. Runt was making small, happy sounds in sleep. Patch's tail twitched as he dreamed. I will tell them the truth, Kate said. Sometimes the scariest-looking creatures are just looking for someone to trust them. And sometimes that trust can change the whole galaxy. Part 4. 3 months had passed since the rescue. Kate stood in a specially designed habitat on the human research station called Galileo. The habitat was huge, almost an acre, with different types of terrain. There were artificial forests, open grasslands, and rocky areas. It gave 3 young Vex hounds plenty of space to run and play and hunt, and they did. Kate watched Scout, Runt, and Patch chase each other through the trees and across the grass. They had grown so much. They were nearly full-sized now, sleek and powerful. Their movements were graceful and deadly. When they practiced hunting on the mechanical prey the scientists provided, their skill was breathtaking. But every evening they came back to Kate. Every night. They curled up beside her in the small living quarters attached to the habitat. And when human researchers approached, the cubs remained calm and even friendly as long as Kate was there. The first few weeks on Galileo had been challenging. The military had not known what to do with Kate or her unusual companions. There had been meetings, debriefings, and endless questions. Some officers thought the Vex hounds were too dangerous to keep. Others saw them as potential military assets, weapons that could be trained and deployed. Kate had fought both ideas hard. The cubs were not pets and they were not weapons. They were intelligent beings who deserved respect and proper care. She had threatened to resign her commission if they tried to take the cubs away from her or use them for military purposes. Finally, they had reached a compromise. Kate would work with the research station's xenobiology team. She would help them understand Vexhounds while ensuring the cubs were treated well. In return, she would remain their primary caretaker and guardian. Dr. Lisa Park had been assigned as the lead scientist. She was a kind woman in her 40s with gray starting to show in her black hair. Unlike some of the other researchers, she genuinely seemed to care about the cubs as living beings, not just research subjects. Lisa approached Kate now as she sat watching Scout and Patch wrestle. Runt was off somewhere exploring a new rock formation the team had added yesterday. The genetic tests came back, Lisa said, sitting down beside Kate on the bench. They are remarkable creatures, highly intelligent, incredibly adaptable, and you were right. They are pack animals. Their social structure has just been suppressed because the Zathi never gave them appropriate social partners. They just needed someone who saw them as people, not weapons, Kate said. We have had inquiries from a dozen species wanting to know if Vexhounds could be socialized with them too. The implications are staggering. The Zathi have been keeping these creatures isolated for thousands of years. They could have been allies, partners, friends. Scout trotted over and dropped a ball at Kate's feet, tail wagging expectantly. She picked it up and threw it, watching the cubs race after it with joy so pure it made her chest feel warm. The Zathi had demanded the cubs back, of course. They claimed the Vexhounds were their property, stolen from their ship. The human government had refused. Kate's testimony about how she had been treated, combined with growing evidence of Zathi violations of galactic laws, had created a diplomatic incident that was still being argued in courts across the galaxy. Kate did not care about the politics. She cared about 3 creatures who had chosen to trust a member of an alien species, when their own creators had only seen them as weapons. Runt came running back with the ball, the others chasing behind. The smallest cub had grown the most, nearly catching up to Scout in size. Runt dropped the ball and immediately climbed into Kate's lap despite being far too big for it now. You are getting too heavy for this, Kate laughed, but she did not push Runt away. The cub made a happy rumbling sound and settled in. Content, Lisa smiled. The bond you have with them is extraordinary. We have been studying the recordings from your time in Zathi captivity, the way they immediately recognized you as safe, the way they chose to protect rather than hunt. It goes against everything the Zathi documented about Vexhound behavior. The Zathi only saw what they expected to see, Kate said, stroking Runt's fur. They treated Vexhounds as dangerous animals, so the Vexhounds acted dangerous around them. It became a self-fulfilling prophecy. We think you are right. We have been reviewing all the Zathi research with fresh eyes. There are hints throughout their data that Vexhounds are more social than they believed. Instances of Vexhounds cooperating, sharing territory, even what might be play behavior. But the Zathi dismissed all of it as anomalies. Scout and Patch came over, not wanting to be left out. Soon Kate was surrounded by 3 large predators, all vying for her attention and affection. To anyone who did not know them, it would look terrifying. To Kate, it just felt like home. What will happen to them? Kate asked quietly. Long term, I mean. They cannot live in this habitat forever. Lisa was quiet for a moment. We have been discussing that. There are several options. We could try to reintroduce them to a Vexhound population in the wild. But honestly, we do not think that would work. They have bonded too strongly with you and with humans in general. They see themselves as part of human society now. So they are stuck here? Not necessarily. We are in talks with the colonial administration on New Terra. It is a frontier world with large wilderness areas. They are interested in establishing a Vexhound sanctuary there. A place where Vexhounds could live semi-wild but with human oversight and care. You would be invited to come, of course, to help establish the program. Kate felt a flutter of hope. A sanctuary? Where they could run free but still be safe. Exactly. And not just for these 3. We are negotiating with several species who have Vexhound populations in their territories. If we can prove that Vexhounds can be successfully socialized, there might be hundreds of them who could be rescued from culling programs or isolation. The idea was almost overwhelming.
Kate had only been thinking about Scout, Runt,
and Patch. But there were more Vexhounds out there, more of these intelligent, Social creatures being treated as monsters because no one had tried to understand them. I would like that, Kate said. I would like that very much. Scout seemed to sense her emotion. The big cub nuzzled her face and made a questioning chirp. Kate hugged him, feeling the strength in his body, the trust in the way he leaned into her. We are going to make things better, she told him, for you and for all your kind. Over the following weeks, Kate worked closely with Lisa and the research team. They documented everything about the cubs' behavior, their social structure, their needs and preferences. They tested their intelligence with increasingly complex puzzles. Scout could solve problems that would challenge a smart dog. Runt showed an unexpected talent for stealth and patience. Patch was the most social, always trying to make friends with new humans. They also started carefully introducing the cubs to other people. It was a slow process. The Vexhounds were protective of Kate and initially suspicious of strangers. But with her present and her encouragement, they gradually accepted other humans into their social circle. Danny Foster, a young xenobiologist fresh out of university, became the first person besides Kate that the cubs fully trusted. He spent hours with them every day, learning their body language and vocalizations. Soon he could walk into the habitat without Kate, and the cubs would greet him like a pack member. They are teaching me their language, Danny explained excitedly one day. They have different chirps and rumbles for different situations. A greeting sound, a play sound, a warning sound. It is almost like they have basic communication. They are smarter than anyone gave them credit for, Kate said. The Zathi saw what they wanted to see. We need to see what is really there. The breakthrough came when they introduced the cubs to children. A group of researchers' kids, aged 6 to 12, visited the station for Family Day. Kate was nervous, but Lisa thought it was important to test the cubs' reactions to young humans. The children were briefed carefully about how to behave. No sudden movements, no loud noises. Let the Vexhounds approach first. Kate stayed close, ready to intervene if needed, but her worry was unnecessary. The cubs, especially Patch, were immediately gentle with the children. They seemed to recognize that these were young, vulnerable members of Kate's species. When a little girl fell and scraped her knee, Runt carefully licked the wound clean, the same way a mother dog might care for a puppy. The children were delighted and fearless in the way only children can be. Soon they were playing chase with the cubs, throwing balls and laughing as the huge predators played with exaggerated gentleness. This is incredible, Lisa said, recording everything. They are adjusting their behavior based on the age and size of the humans they interact with. That level of social intelligence is remarkable. Kate watched Scout carefully herd a wandering toddler back toward the group, the massive predator moving with delicate precision. They are people, she said simply. Different from us, but people nonetheless. That evening, after the families had left and the cubs were settling down for the night, Kate received an unexpected message. It was from Captain Helen Grant, the Marine who had rescued her from the Zathi ship. Morrison, I do not know if you have been following the news, but your story is making waves. Big waves. The Galactic Council is reviewing the Zathi's classification of Vexhounds as non-sentient wildlife. Part 5. 6 months after her rescue, Kate stood before the Galactic Council in their grand chamber on Station Unity. The room was enormous, with seating for representatives from 47 different species. Each delegation sat in specially designed sections that accommodated their unique physiologies. The ceiling was a transparent dome showing the stars beyond. Kate wore her dress uniform, crisp and formal. But she was not alone. Scout, Runt, and Patch stood beside her, wearing special harnesses that identified them as registered companions. The cubs, now fully grown Vexhounds, were magnificent. Their black fur gleamed under the chamber lights. Their 6 eyes scanned the room with intelligent awareness. The Zathi delegation sat in their section, mandibles clicking with clear displeasure. Interrogator Vexus was among them, its posture radiating hostility. Kate met its gaze steadily. She was not a prisoner anymore. She was here to speak truth. The council chair, an elderly being from the Shen Collective with flowing tentacles and a melodious voice, called the session to order. Lieutenant Commander Kate Morrison of Earth, you have been called to testify regarding the nature and sentience of the species known as Vexhounds. The Zathi Empire contests your claims and maintains that Vexhounds are non-sentient predators, unsuitable for social integration. Please present your testimony. Kate stepped forward. Scout moved with her, a silent guardian. Runt and Patch flanked her on either side. Honored council members, 6 months ago I was a prisoner of the Zathi. They used Vexhound cubs as a tool of psychological torture, expecting these creatures to terrify me or kill me. Instead, something unexpected happened. The cubs recognized me as a potential pack member. They chose companionship over violence. They chose trust over fear. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The chamber was completely silent. Since then, I have lived with these 3 Vexhounds. I have watched them grow, learn, and develop. They are not mindless predators. They are intelligent, social beings capable of complex thought, emotional bonds, and moral choice. They understand right and wrong. They protect the vulnerable. They grieve, they play, they love. This is sentiment, not science, Vexus interrupted, rising from the Zathi section. The human has formed an emotional attachment that clouds her judgment. Vexhounds are dangerous animals. Nothing more. Kate kept her voice calm. Interrogator Vexus, you kept these cubs starved and isolated, then expected them to behave as savage killers. When they did not, you could not explain it. The failure was not in the Vexhound's nature. The failure was in your understanding of that nature. Murmurs ran through the council chamber. The Zathi delegation clicked angrily, but Vexus remained standing. You claim they are sentient. Prove it. Show us evidence beyond your feelings. Kate had prepared for this. She turned to Dr. Lisa Park, who was seated in the human delegation area. Lisa activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. These are cognitive tests administered over the past 6 months, Lisa explained. Scout, Runt, and Patch have demonstrated problem-solving abilities equal to dolphins and great apes. They understand cause and effect, plan multiple steps ahead, and use tools. They have individual personalities and preferences. They communicate through complex vocalizations and body language. The hologram showed Scout solving a puzzle box, his movements deliberate and thoughtful. It showed Runt demonstrating object permanence, understanding that things still exist even when hidden. It showed Patch teaching a younger Vexhound, rescued from a Zathi facility, how to use a water dispenser. They also demonstrate advanced social behavior. Lisa continued. They form strong bonds, show empathy, and adjust their behavior based on social context. Watch this. The hologram changed to show the cubs with children. The massive predators moved with exaggerated gentleness, carefully controlling their strength. When a child stumbled, Patch steadied her with his body. When another child cried, Runt pressed close in comfort. These are not the actions of simple animals, Lisa said. These are the actions of beings who understand others' emotions and respond appropriately. A representative from the Thren Confederacy, a species known for their strict adherence to scientific evidence, spoke up. The evidence is compelling, but the Zathi have studied Vexhounds for centuries. How do you explain the disparity in observations? Kate answered. The Zathi saw Vexhounds through a lens of fear and prejudice. They treated them as threats, so Vexhounds responded defensively. It became self-reinforcing, but when Vexhounds are treated with respect and given appropriate social partners, their true nature emerges. Lies, Vexus spat. Vexhounds are solitary. They cannot bond. Then explain this, Kate said quietly. She knelt, and all 3 Vexhounds immediately pressed close to her. Scout rested his head on her shoulder. Runt leaned against her side. Patch lay down with his head on her feet. The trust and affection were obvious to everyone watching. Kate stood again, the Vexhounds rising with her. Interrogator Vexus, you tried to break me with predators. You failed because you fundamentally misunderstood what these creatures are. They are not your weapons. They are not your tools. They are people in their own right, and they deserve to be recognized as such. The council chair raised a tentacle for silence. We will hear from other witnesses. Danny Foster, please approach. Danny, nervous but determined, came forward. Over the next hour, he and other researchers presented their findings. They showed brain scans demonstrating Vexhound neural complexity. They played recordings of Vexhound vocalizations, showing distinct dialects and learned behaviors. They presented testimony from 53 different humans who had interacted safely with Scout, Runt, and Patch. Then came the testimony that changed everything. A Zathi scientist named Kethis, the same one who had observed Kate in captivity, approached the testimony platform. The Zathi delegation erupted in angry clicking, but Kethis ignored them. I supervised the initial observations of Lieutenant Commander Morrison and the Vexhound cubs, Kethis said. What I witnessed contradicted centuries of Zathi doctrine about Vexhounds. At first, I tried to rationalize it, but the evidence became impossible to ignore. We have been wrong about Vexhounds. Fundamentally, completely wrong. Traitor, Vexus hissed. Truth speaker, Kethis replied calmly. I'm a scientist. My loyalty is to truth, not comfortable lies. Vexhounds are sentient. They are social. They have been suffering under our misunderstanding for millennia. This must end. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Representatives argued, debated, consulted their advisors. Kate stood quietly, one hand resting on Scout's head, feeling his steady presence beside her. Finally, after 3 hours of deliberation, the council chair called for order. The Galactic Council has reviewed the evidence presented. By a vote of 39 to 8, we recognize Vexhounds as sentient beings under galactic law. They are entitled to all protections afforded to sentient species. The Zathi Empire is ordered to cease all culling programs and release any Vexhounds in captivity to approved sanctuaries within 6 standard months. The chamber erupted again, this time with mixed reactions. Some delegations applauded. Others registered protests. The Zathi delegation stormed out, Vexus leading them. Kate felt tears running down her face. Scout whined softly and licked her cheek. Runt pressed against her legs. Patch made a happy chirping sound. We did it, she whispered. You are free. Really, truly free. The following months were a whirlwind. The Vexhound Sanctuary on New Terra was established with Kate as the director. Vexhounds began arriving from across the galaxy, rescued from captivity or brought in from the wild. Each one needed careful socialization, but with patience and proper care, they all proved capable of forming bonds with humans and other species. Scout, Runt, and Patch became ambassadors for their species. They traveled to other worlds, demonstrated their intelligence and social nature, and helped other Vexhounds adjust to their new lives. They were celebrities, but they never forgot where they came from. Kate often thought about that day in the Zathi chamber, when 3 starving cubs had approached her. They could have killed her. They should have killed her, according to everything the Zathi believed, but they had chosen differently. One evening, Kate sat on the porch of her quarters on New Terra, watching the sun set over the sanctuary. Scout lay beside her, now a massive adult, but still sometimes acting like a cub. Runt was playing with a group of younger Vexhounds, teaching them hunting techniques. Patch was greeting new arrivals, welcoming them to safety. Danny came out to join her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He had become her deputy director and closest colleague. Another transport just arrived, he said. 23 more Vexhounds from the Outer Rim. They are scared, but they will come around. They always do, Kate said. Once they realize they are safe, Danny smiled. You know, when I first heard your story, I thought it was impossible. Predators just do not behave that way. But seeing it every day, living it, I understand now. They were never the monsters. We were just looking at them wrong. Kate scratched behind Scout's ears, feeling him lean into her touch with pleasure. The Zathi tried to use the cubs to break me. They thought fear of predators was universal, primal, unavoidable. But they were wrong about what makes something predatory. What do you mean?